Today we're going to be talking about converting metric units. So you can put today's date at the top of your page and you can title your notes. We're in topic 5, lesson 9, and it's convert metric units. Okay, so we talked about in our previous notes, converting means we're changing basically. So we're going to be changing between different units. And instead of customary units, today we're going to look at metric units. So when we're talking about distance, which really that just means we're talking about length, we're going to be looking at meters. And it could be meters, it could be centimeters, millimeters, but the idea is that you should have that word meters in there. We're also going to look at mass or weight. And when we talk about mass or weight, we're going to be looking at grams. And again, it could be, for example, milligrams, but it'll still have grams in there. And then lastly, we're going to look at capacity, which has to do with volume. And that would be liters, or centiliters, or milliliters. So our conversions are going to look a little different today because it's kind of a base 10 system. So we are going to start by looking at some prefixes. For example, we're going to start with milli. And so if I have, let's say, 1,000 millimeters, so I'm going to write that out as 1,000 and use the prefix milli. Now, I might be talking about 1,000 millimeters if we're talking about distance. If we're talking about mass or weight, I might be talking about 1,000 milligrams. Or if we're talking about capacity or volume, then I'm going to be talking about liters. So 1,000 millimeters, milligrams, or milliliters is equal to 1 meter, gram, or liter. So 1 meter, gram, or liter if we're talking about volume. So 1,000 millimeters is equal to 1 meter, 1,000 milligrams is equal to 1 gram, or 1,000 milliliters is equal to 1 liter. Okay, let's look at our next conversion. Now we're going to look at the prefix centi. So let's say I have 100, and we're going to kind of set it up the same way. So 100 centimeters, centiliters, or centigrams, that's going to be equal to 1 meter, gram, or liter. So let's go ahead and fill those in. So 100 centimeters is equal to 1 meter. 100 centigrams is equal to 1 gram. And then finally, 100 centiliters is equal to 1 liter. And I'm kind of trying to color code those so it's a little bit easier for you as well. All right, now we're going to look at the prefix deci. So let's say I have 10 decimeters. That's going to be equal to 1 meter. So 10 decimeters is equal to 1 meter. 10 decigrams is equal to 1 gram. And finally, 10 deciliters is equal to 1 liter. Okay, let's move on to the prefix deca. So 1 decameter is going to be equal to 10 meters. So 1 decameter equals 10 meters. 1 decagram equals 10 grams. And finally, 1 deciliter equals 10 liters. Okay, we've got 2 more prefixes we're going to look at. The next one is hecto. So 1 hectometer is equal to 100 meters. So 1 hectometer equals 100 meters. 1 hectogram equals 100 grams. And then 1 hectoliter equals 100 liters. So it's really just the same idea. It just depends on if you're talking about distance, mass, or capacity. All right, and then the last conversion is 1 kilometer is equal to 1,000 meters. So 1 kilometer or kilometer is equal to 1,000 meters. 1 kilogram equals 1,000 grams. And then 1 kiloliter equals 1,000 liters. So those are the conversions we're going to use, and we're going to use them pretty similarly to what we did with customary units. So we're going to look at some examples on the back. If you need to pause the video to finish copying this down, go ahead and pause it. So at the top here, you can go and label as examples. So for example 1, we're going to change 47 decimeters we're going to change that to meters. So I want to know how many meters is that equivalent to. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my units. We're going decimeters to meters, and I'm going to look back at my conversions. And I see here's decimeters, and there are 10 decimeters for every 1 meter. So I'm going to start with that ratio or rate. Okay, so again, we said there are 10 decimeters per 1 meter. Well, I know that I'm looking for 47 decimeters. So since decimeters is in the numerator, I'm going to put 47 decimeters in the numerator. And we're trying to figure out how many meters that would be equivalent to. So you can use your calculator if you need to help you with this. But we want to see how we got from the 10 decimeters over to 47 decimeters. And so you could use your calculator or you could work it out. But if you're not sure how to get from 10 to 47, one way to do that is to work backwards and divide. So I could divide 47 by 10, which would give me 4 7/10. So that tells me that I multiplied 10 by 4 7/10 to get 47. So I've got to do the same thing to the number of meters, multiply by 4 7/10, which would give me 4 7/10 meters. Let's look at one more example like that. So for this one, we're going to start with 186 centigrams. And I want to know how many grams that's equivalent to. So again, I'm going to go back to my list. And I'm going to find centigrams. So we're talking about mass. There's centi. So 100 centigrams is equal to 1 gram. Okay, so I'm going to go back. And I'm going to write that as a rate. So 100 centigrams per 1 gram. And I want to know, what if we have 186 centigrams? Okay, so again, I've got to figure out how to get from 100 to 186. And you can use division to help. So 186 divided by 100, which would give us 1 8600. So I've got to multiply by 1 8600 for both my numerator and denominator, which gives me 1 8600 grams. Okay, so the process for converting with metric units is very similar. You want to start with your rate that you know, and then convert by either multiplying or dividing by the same number.